Hi there, and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth, or welcome back as the case might be. I'm Anah. Today we're going to be talking about the aura and chakras, I guess. So many of you who are watching this probably already have an understanding and are believers. So I just want to clarify, you aren't the people that I am directing this video towards, although your comments would be welcome around the content that I put up. You might have more information or different beliefs or whatever, and it will open a nice dialogue. However, with this particular video, I'm focused more on the personality types that, these logical, rational people that turn around and go, like, oh my God, auras, really? They are insane. People who think about this, they're insane. What a load of rubbish. What a load of gobbledygook, right? They are the people that this video is directed to. And I also just want to say thank you very much for joining me today before we kick on. All right, so moving on right now. So we just talked about, obviously, the skeptics who will reflexively kick out and reject any dialogue or conversation about auras and chakras. They will definitely have some questions. And just so you know, I don't judge these people, because once upon a time I was one of them. Where in the past I didn't have an issue of the concepts or ideas of spirit and spirit communication, even omens and predictive dreams and that kind of thing. I did have an issue around the whole concept of auras, chakras, and healing energy. So this is why I don't judge them. I recognise that they will continue to completely block or reject all the conversations or literature around the subject until they're left with no choice, and they have to actually face it and accept it as true, which is actually what happened with me. I was put in the position of being exposed to energy and opening up my mind. So anyway, what kind of questions might a skeptic ask? Well, it will be, if they've got an open mind, prove it to me. Because if you can't prove it to me, then I can only assume that you must be insane. So show me something of substance that I can accept, that perhaps there's a legitimacy to the claims that you make about auras and chakras. So this is what this video is going to try and do. And whenever I put information up, once again, I say, please do put your own questions up. We can look at it in another video and put up your own experiences, because that would be wonderful. So I started to record on this slide a story of me observing somebody who was an absolute outright skeptic converting to a believer in a matter of seconds, but it actually turned out being a really long story, so I've deleted it, and I might save it for another day. We might have that conversation. But suffice to say that energy, just retain an open mind. I do believe that actually everybody's going to believe in it or feel it at some point in time, even if they're skeptical, because energy is energy. It's there and it's real. It's available to anybody. And when we're talking about energy, we're generally talking about light matter that's invisible to the eye, to the naked eye rather, for most people. And I guess this is what makes conversations about energy so uncomfortable for people. And especially, I'm just taking a stab here, especially if they're uncomfortable with their emotions, or that they've got this really one-eyed approach to life, which is, that it's this way, there is no in between. They have it, it's this way, that way, or the wrong way, or whatever. So anyway, when we're talking about healing and self-empowerment with the use of energy, we're also talking about how to direct energy and how to use it for the greatest good. Now, to be honest, I also did struggle with the concepts of spiritual healing and Reiki back in 2000. It might have even been 1999, but I keep saying, I think I've kept repeating myself, that the universe wasn't going to let me get away with not being a believer. They had obviously a different pathway for me, and I didn't need to have a lot of people around me to make me believe that it existed, because at the end of the day, I started seeing way too many miracles. Once I learned about energy, actually, probably the best way of explaining it is, I went to my first Reiki attunement, and I went in blindly. I didn't realize what I was doing. This sounds so stupid. I thought that I was going in to buy a bottle of product, and when I got there, I'd had to pay in advance. And when I got there, I realised, I looked around and I thought I was surrounded by lunatics, but I thought, well, I've paid for it now and they're not going to get me a refund. I may as well get my money's worth. And I stayed with it. And my teacher at the time told me it doesn't matter if you don't believe in energy anyway, because once you've been attuned, you'll be able to use it, whatever. Anyway, so I started experimenting with it, shall we say, and I started to see the miracles. And this is what's converted me over to believing in energy and working with it further. So I might have a convo, do another video about that another day. So I suspect for many of the skeptics that seeing these kinds of images that I've put up here, that they struggle with, that perhaps feeds their, what a bunch of weirdos type stuff, right? By the way, I'll put the image up because I think it's pretty, okay? But anyway, once again, I don't judge them for that, because I do remember when I first started getting into this stuff, as I said, 1999, 2000, where I was like, do these people really believe in the magic of rocks? Like, they have to be bats, okay? But either way, the answer to that is, do they really believe in the magic of rocks? Well, to some extent, some do, some don't, right? As for myself, I actually love crystals and I do associate healing energy with them, but that's because I'm a tester, okay? I don't just assume because somebody says to me this is going to do X and Y. I will test things. So as far as you can't test the universal energy, well, get rid of that. That's just a limitation somebody somewhere told us. Perhaps many years ago, I don't know, but you can actually test energy and you will find your own personal answers. So in answer to that, do people believe in the magic of crystals? Yes, some do. No, some don't. Some remain open-minded and they just go, yeah, whatever, I'll believe it when I see it. They don't rule it out, okay? But the reality is, whether they believe in the magic of crystals, whether they believe in the clicking of fingers, holding up of palms, waving a wand, the bottom line is that when people are working with energy, they're all attempting to heal the aura, right? And this is the important factor. They just have different ways of going about it. I'm just going to try and breeze over this. I've actually recorded this slide a number of times now. It's driving me a bit bats, so I'm just going to talk to it, okay? I've put this slide up for a reason, and it's because it is considered to be a credible piece of academic, I think, research or paper. I hope you can't hear those big trucks going past. Anyway, Maslow was a psychologist, and from what I recall, I may have incorrect recollections here. If I'm incorrect, please put your comments up, let us know, let other people know. My understanding is that he was an American psychologist. He had a team of people that were working beneath him, and that they came up with this theory of for a person to be able to, it's an empowerment model, by the way, just pull myself up there, that for a person to achieve self-actualization, which is the process of being able to work from a space of maximizing their potential. Like everybody wants to be the best version of themselves. We'll have heard that saying so many times. He basically is saying, to be the best version of yourself, there needs to be certain things put in place first. And the first thing is that you need to have, obviously, healthy air. You need to be able to access food, water, shelter, clothing, and to have quality sleep, because these are your base physiological needs, and this is about health. From there, obviously, once our base needs are taken care of, we need to have safety and security of the home. We need to know that we're going to have a certain amount of money coming in to take care and pay for our costs, that we need to be able to afford our health care, and that our family is stable and secure, so it's safe at home. And then once we've got these first two layers taken care of, then we can go into having that sense of love and belonging. Now, this has only got 5 of the layers on it, so I'm not sure that this is actually the original one, but it feeds into the chakras, and I was able to recognize this immediately. Now, what I want to bring to people's attention as well is, because I believe in justice, I'm sorry, I make no apologies for it, although I say sorry, I do believe in recognizing talent when it comes up. While Maslow was given credit for this particular concept, I did see after I finished my degree that this is actually the product of one of the female team members, and I did have her name, but I can't find it now. Of course, why would I be able to find it today when I'm looking for it? If you find it, please do put her name below so that she can get the appropriate recognition. Anyway, I've got to stop saying anyway, but anyway, all right. Where we're going with this too is this piece of work submitted by Maslow and his team is considered to be credible because the social scientists, they've assessed it and they're like, it's sound academic wisdom. From a spiritual perspective, self-actualization is in the crown chakra. It's where you're able to live your authentic self, where you've got confidence in yourself and your ability, you feel safe, and you've got, I think the defining point is that once you have raised your self-awareness and you're actualizing your potential, you're no longer threatened by differences. Okay, everybody is different, everybody is unique, the way they see the world, the way what they believe in, they have their own gifts, and nobody is all things to all people at all times. So the best way I think to explain this is that you know your limitations and you know your strengths, and you know that at the end of the day the world doesn't revolve around just one of us, that every success is a team effort. There's more than one person involved. You can have one leader, you can also share leadership, but if you share leadership, you need to have a shared vision of the final product. So if we were to apply this to a project in the workplace, which skeptics like logical, so we'll do logical. If you were to talk about the fact that you've got a project at work, somebody's come up with a brilliant idea and they've got a vision of what this is going to look like when it's completed. So they present it to the boss says, run with it. But how are you going to do it? So you've got to map out the plan. How are you going to do it? So the leader goes, well, I can see the vision, but I don't have the technical expertise. I don't know how to work with technology, for example, and I don't know how to market the idea. I believe it can be very financially lucrative because bosses love that. But I just don't know how to get it off the ground, right? So the boss will probably turn around and bring to the table his little contributions are, you better go and have a chat with Joe Blow because they're really good at technical and they can probably tell you what kind of technological support you need. Have a chat with so-and-so because that person's really good as a bean counter. Scope them out, see if they're a good fit for your team. Have a chat with so-and-so because they're quite creative. They might be able to expand on this vision. And so where I'm going with this is you build your project team and you bring in all the strengths that you need to get this project through to fruition. You know, you don't have to be best mates. Actually, that's the interesting thing actually about a good team is when you're scoping them out, you don't have to be best mates. You don't have to be socializing with these people out of your project hours, but you have to be able to respect each other and the contributions that they bring to the team. The bean counter, of course, is always the one that's generally on the outer because they tend to be, with respect, quite often they are less comfortable with emotions and more comfortable with numbers. So they don't necessarily have the same capacity to connect socially or on an empathy or compassion level with the other team members. But that doesn't mean to say that they don't hold value. They're very important team members. And to get this project to the completion stage and then out to the public and then having it making money, everybody in that team is vital, even if they're different, you know? So this is what basically heightened self and awareness is. It's the acceptance, it's having a purpose and all of that. But anyway, I'll leave you to look at that a bit further as we carry on with the energy and aura discussion. So as part of building a little bit of a background here for the skeptics, the concept of auras is believed to go back at least 1500 to 500 BC in the oldest text, the we know about anyway, is the Vedas. Now, the Vedas also include information and understanding of the chakra systems. The Vedas are considered by practitioners of Hinduism and Tantra to be the sacred text in the same way that Christians revere the New Testament and the Old Testament, and followers of Judaism, I believe for them it's the Old text, the Old Testament and the Torah, and of course for Islam or what are they called? God, sorry, I'm having mind blanks at the moment. For Muslims, it's the Quran and so forth. So the concepts of auras and chakras are religious and faith based. And this image of the swastika is not to be mistaken for the swastika symbol of the Nazis. It was hijacked by the Nazis and converted to their little symbol. But I just want to point out here that the difference between them is that the swastika here for the Vedas it has these pointed ends and it's got the dots in the middle. And in fact, actually, if I recall correctly, it should be red or black. I can't remember though. It's definitely not this little purple that we've got, but either way, it's just, this image is just as a representation. So the symbol of the swastika represents God creation. The four wings are represented by these bent arms, and they have meaning as well. Humanity and righteousness, referring to good moral decision making and where all actions should be for the greater good. Another of the arms represents prosperity and love. And by the way, I am really simplifying these descriptions. I'm absolutely not doing it justice. I'm almost embarrassed, right? It's considered to represent the world of eternal life, and it's all fixed around the center point of God Creator. So what I'm trying to point out is that the concept of auras is not founded in insanity, but rather in a religious belief, and that is also known as faith. And in some ways, the fact that concepts around aura and chakras is based in faith and religion, this becomes part of the problem, is because technically speaking, very little evidence has been conducted to establish, and I have quotation marks, the truth of any faith-based beliefs. And for those of us with a university degree, they'll support my statements here that when it comes to what is accepted as credible research, it's a very complex process, and all credible research is usually conducted, well, what we call credible in today's times, is generally conducted within the context of a university, and studies are funded by a party or parties with a vested interest in the outcome, which will either prove or disprove the theory. Now, that little last statement that I gave is the bit that might throw people in arms, because it's like, no, they don't have a vested interest. Well, they can say they don't have a vested interest. I'm pretty sure they do. The parties are usually motivated by the potential of either financial reward or professional regard, e.g., for example, becoming the expert of a topic. Now, a prime example of a pharmaceutical company funding research into an essential oil, Sorry, I had to cough there. So, a prime example of a vested interest is where a pharmaceutical company pays for research into the healing benefits of essential oils, because, of course, a lot of alternative therapists will speak to the benefits of using oils for X and Y conditions. And this is going to raise an interest, obviously, for the pharmaceutical companies, because they want to make the money and that kind of thing. So if they're seeing that they're competing with alternative healers that are selling a product, for example, emu oil would be a good one for arthritis. Well, they want to have emu oil tested if it starts to take off, and then they will produce it themselves and perhaps do I can't remember what it's called. It's kind of like a copyright or whatever, something like that, where they're the only ones that can manufacture it. So even if they don't have an outright agenda in the study of a subject, I don't believe for a moment, call me a cynic, that they will fund studies and research if there's not going to be some kind of benefit for them down the track. And the benefit could be saying, well, actually, we've tested it and there is no scientific evidence to support that this product works, right? It's just an old wives' tale. So there's a vested interest in companies that pay for research, regardless of what we might see. I'm trying to think. Regardless of how they market that information, there's always going to be a benefit for them. And the problems here is that if you've got spiritual and energy healers, there's no incentive there for research to be done by people that pay for research, because you can't put auras into bottles, right? You just can't do it. There's no market there. So I'm not saying that science completely ignores the concepts of auras, because we do see oblique references to it in the empirical studies of psychology. And this is what I believe anyway. I have talked about research in other videos, but anyway, for the skeptic, I would like you to bear this stuff in mind. So concepts of boundaries actually is another way that spiritual and science merge. And this slide here is to show you that they talk about personal body space, right? We talk about auras. In the spiritual industry, we talk about auras. But the psychologists and social scientists will talk about personal body space, and they will talk, I think the subjects are kinesiology, proxemics, I'm thinking of, that's the word. They will look at things like that. They just put different labels onto it, and the labels that they use are more acceptable within an academic field. There are variations, of course, between what's presented by the scientists and what is presented by energy workers. And you can see here the psychologists in their image of personal body space. They talk about the intimate zone being 0.2 to 0.6, whereas we will see in the upcoming slides that it's actually different. We talk about the first zone as energy workers being about 0.5 meters from the body, all points of the body actually, and we do it egg shaped, but I'll show you that in the next slide. But anyway, we all agree, whether they're the psychologists or the spiritual people, that if a person comes into that intimate zone, that first zone, it can be very uncomfortable. Okay. And if you think about it, when we were in the periods of lockdown, we were advised to stand 1.5 meters from each other, approximately 3 feet, I believe that is. As part of social distancing. Sorry, I'm not being very clear here. I'm trying to look at my own notes. Okay, so just to reiterate, when it comes to differences and variations between the psychology and the spiritual, they say here the intimate zone is 0.2 to 0.6. The spiritual says about 1.5 meters. That's kind of the comfort zone. That's your personal body space. If somebody's coming into 0.2 meters, that is very much intimate. And if it was a spiritual thing, that's way too close for contact. They need to take a step back. Personal space. Look, I'm just going to skip over to the next slide and show you that. So where I was trying to go in the last slide was that, of course, you've got the psychology explanation for boundaries, which varies from the metaphysical. Now, from a metaphysical perspective, I haven't been able to create the perfect image or model of what I understand the human aura to look like. And these images are basically portraying a two-dimensional visual or a flat earth model. Anyway, what I'm trying to portray, and not doing it very well, is the Vedas consider the human aura to be layered around the body, like this egg-shaped one on the left, right? And that there are multiple layers, and that each layer, the first layer is 1.5 meters from all points of the body. I say 1.5, but we talk approximately, okay? It could be 1 to 1.5 meters, and that's the intimate space. Now, each layer, as a rough estimate, and not necessarily exact, is about an additional 0.5 meters from the layer of the other one. So when we're talking about a minimum of the 7 primary layers of the aura, we're then talking about an aura that extends out about 3.5 meters either side of the human body, with the human body centered in the middle of it. Now, these layers of the aura are also associated with the chakras, and there are colours of the auras, there's colours of the chakras. So just as an example, the first layer of the aura is associated with the physical body and the physiological aspects, and the red of the base chakra, and it refers to base survival instincts, base needs. Okay, the auras cannot be seen by the naked eye, although some people can with highly developed clairvoyant. Well, not necessarily even highly. Some people can, okay, but generally most people can't. Another difference from mainstream psychology is the belief of the composition of the aura, and how and why people's moods will fluctuate when the personal space is violated. So that's a difference as well. We offer different explanations between the psychologists and the metaphysical workers. Now, just as a little tidbit, although this section's not on angels, we're talking about auras. Um, Angels is obviously something that some people really struggle to believe. Now, what I will say is that my understanding is, and I have no personal experience of seeing auras in this particular way. My understanding is that for people that can see angel auras, that the reason why they have been depicted in the old paintings is because their aura is different from the human aura in that they have wings. Their aura shape is winged. This little visual is not going to do it justice, but basically, yeah, it's got those wings out the side. It's not an egg shape anymore. It's got a couple of pointy bits up the top. And so that has been interpreted over history to be wings, and then the artists have depicted the wings in paintings as being feathered, because interestingly, all religions and faiths, as far as I know it, whether they're Jews, Muslims, Christians, or whatever, they all acknowledge angels as messengers of God, interestingly. So, of course, yeah, it stands to reason that they will have an aura as well. So just a bit of spice here to flick a bit of spice into the situation. We go straight from angels and talk about research again. So the reason why we're talking about research again is because what we're talking about with auras is light bodies, right? And to lead into that, I'm going to talk about, first off, research evidence-based stuff that people can understand and accept, is the fact that nobody is going to dispute, I don't believe in this day and age anyway, that the physical body is made up of a cellular structure that's made up of molecules that are in constant state of motion, because they can see these molecules under microscopes. They can watch the cells moving around, and so therefore there's not an issue or a problem for most people these days, I think, unless they live, I don't know where, but perhaps out of touch with modern scientific developments. They're not going to dispute the fact that, yes, the entire physical body is in a constant state of internal motion of cells and molecules moving around. And so, therefore, the next thing that we as metaphysicians struggle to convey, I guess, to the non believers is that the aura consists of a cellular structure that is made up. Actually, and the funny comparison here is that you can't see the body's chemistry. You cannot see those molecules unless you put it under a microscope and take a look at it. It is not visible to the naked eye. All you see is the solid mass. So, just parking that for a moment. So, for the metaphysicians who believe in auras, what we're talking about is a cellular or molecular structure that is not visible to the naked eye. It's referred to as the light body, and you can learn more about light bodies by watching the tutorial on energy and vibration if you want, but I'm leading into something here now. So just hold that thought about the physical body, molecules that are in motion that can't be seen with the naked eye and can only be seen with specific tools. So, from a metaphysical perspective, we consider that the human body, that is the flesh, blood, and skin aspects of the body, to be the heaviest or the densest aspect of the aura. This is because the substance of the body has, or energy matter, as we call it, has weight, it's physical, and we can see it with our naked eye. The cellular structure is vibrating, moving very slowly, and the body creates a shadow when the sun is behind it. The auric layers are light because they do not have much weight and they can be felt. Incidentally, spirit has an aura, and we can feel spirit when we have aligned our own energy fields or lightened our own auras. We have to raise ourselves up so that we can feel their energy. Anyway, that was a little diversion. Going back to it, the aura itself has very little weight. The molecular structure is moving very quickly, and if the sun is behind the aura, the sun can shine through it, and this is why we say it's light, because it doesn't create a shadow. So some people who are open to their gifts, they can see the aura through the use of their clairvoyance. Just want to mention, we also refer to the aura as energy, vibrational layers, things like that. Now, as with scientists who study the human body and cellular and molecular structure, they can see these cells by using the correct device, the microscope or whatever it is that they use these days, because I'm not a scientist. Well, the same can actually be said for people who are studying the aura. There are specialist devices now that can study the aura or take photographs of the aura. This, by the way, is not an image. This is a created image. It's not an aura photograph. But the aura imaging can actually show the colours of the rainbow that are around a person, and that's actually used as a diagnostic tool quite often for people, because if the aura is out of alignment, it speaks to that. But actually, that's a conversation for another video. But yes, you can use the aura imaging devices just for fun, or you can use it for specialist purposes. Now, I don't want to put down aura imaging, because at the end of the day, some people live their life with it, they make their business out of it, and it's very expensive to buy these machines to be able to see the aura images. So I don't want to belittle that in any way, because it does have value to people in their lives. From my perspective, though, I don't consider them to be 100% reliable, because the aura is in a constant state of movement. This is not an image of a cell or anything like that. I just thought I'll put it up there, because when we walk our path, we are continually exposed to people and environments, and our aura will shift and adjust throughout the course of the day. So I don't see the point actually in doing it other than for fun, actually, to get your aura stuff done or aura imaging. But there again, I must be clear here, this is because I actually do have clairvoyance, and when I'm actually doing a session with somebody, I can see the aura. I don't need to have a photograph of the aura. So everybody's different, okay? Just putting it out there. So this is where we start talking about aura maintenance and the importance and relevance of it, and why understanding auras is important for all of us. If we look at this image here, what we see is two people basically. Now, realistically, based on the other slides where we say that an auric layer is about 3.5 meters in its totality either side of a person, we can assume then from looking at this image that these people are actually probably standing about, I don't know, 3.5, 3.5, 7 point, so what are we looking at there? 3.7, 8. This image can represent two people standing about 8 meters apart from each other. So there's no compromise of their auras or of their chakras. Whereas this image, this one represents two people that are standing probably about 4 or 5 meters apart from each other. And what we're seeing here is a crossover of energy. There's an overlap, you can see it. There's an overlap within the energy fields. So when you're sharing energy with another person, as in the previous image, there's a potential for what is called an energy transfer to happen. Now, in this image, if I can speak, I would estimate that this couple would be standing, say, 1.5 meters apart. basically the same distance they would be standing if they were at the shops at the checkout, right? So as an example of an energy transfer and how that can happen, you will know this. I would imagine that you will relate to these comments, whether you believe in auras or energy or not, you will definitely relate to this. An example of an energy transfer can occur and you will become aware of it eventually, but the checkout is a really good example, or actually the shops, right? So I'm going to paint a scenario for you. As you drive or walk to the shops, you're in a good mood, feeling great about yourself. You walk into the shop, you start doing your shopping, people are walking and milling about everywhere. Sometimes you find yourself standing, taking a look at the shelves while you make your selection. A stranger to you or even a friend comes up beside you or behind you. So they've come in pretty close, maybe even closer than these two people here, because they're trying to look at the same selection as what you're looking at. So you're sharing personal space as far as the aura is concerned when you're doing this. At the time that you're doing your shopping, your mind is busy, you're focused on your tasks, you're not really paying a lot of attention to how you feel or your emotional state, or even if there's any physical feelings, because you're just doing what you've got to do, you're going about your business. Now, as you get to the checkout, there's a line of people in front of you, there's people behind you. Your mind is not as busy as it was because you finished doing your tasks and now you're just trying to get through the checkout. And if you notice or observe any irritations coming into you, it's very easy to turn around and say to yourself, oh, I'm just irritable because the checkout person's not working fast enough, or the checkout itself, if you're in the self-serve, is not moving as quickly as I would like. And you're starting to think about what's going to happen when you get home and what you're going to do. So you finish up, you pay for your items, and then you start walking or driving home, and you suddenly realise that there's become a complete change in your feelings, your mood, and your emotional state. And you can't explain why, because nothing has actually happened to alter your feelings. You were happy before you went to the shops, and now all of a sudden, inexplicably, you've had a mood change. So you might notice that all of a sudden you're feeling quite irritable. I like to use extremes actually for examples, because sometimes extremes just make things so much clearer. Okay, so all of a sudden, without reason, you're starting to feel very irritable. You might start to feel deeply sad, almost grieving, because there has been such a big shift inside of you, and you just don't know where these feelings have come from. You just feel X or Y. Now that I've made this point to you, you're going to be aware that there's a possibility of an energy exchange or an energy transfer that's happened while you're at the shop. So you're going to do what most of us that are aware of this will do, which is you will think about, well, what happened at the shops? When did this change in my mood start, right? And you might get an image flash into your mind of a person that you were standing next to at the shops. It could have been at the checkout, and where now that you look back at that situation, there's something in that person's non-verbal communication, sometimes it can be verbal, that would indicate that they are feeling how you are now feeling, right? So it's kind of like, now that I'm not there, I can see that lady or I can see that man in my eyes, and I can see that actually they probably were feeling very sad. So you've picked up on their energy. So we're talking about when we pick up on the energy, it's an energy transfer. It's not your stuff. And if you know how to work with energy and how to clear and cleanse your auric fields, you can do that on the way home so that you don't take these feelings that are not yours with you into the house and give it to everyone at home, right? It's no one's fault. It's not a case of blaming them. It's not malicious. It's just something that can happen. So now that you know this little tidbit, think about it. What happens when you're in a group situation? How much energy are you picking up and transferring to others non-maliciously throughout the day? You know, group energy is, of course, different, because when you have group energy, there's also the transfer of thoughts, beliefs, and any limitations. Now, I'm not going to go into it because this is too long a video already than what I initially intended, but this is something that I recognized many years ago when I was working with energy, and I was able to tell, if you like, what was divine communication from what was fear-based. And I was finding that I was going to a lot of spiritual activities, but I was coming home and I was experiencing nightmares and picking up on the fears of other people. And I realised that actually these were not divine communications. They certainly weren't messages from my guides, but they were definitely the projections of fears of other people. So it's one of the reasons why why I'm very cautious about what group activities I involve myself in. And I also realized this realization of group and shared energy was something that I observed within leading my own meditation groups and healing classes. And one of the reasons why I introduced good personal hygiene into my classes, if you like. We would practice that there so that there was no transfer of anything that was less than divine energy. I think that's all I need to talk about here. So this business of group energy and transfer and projection of energy is why it becomes so important that all of us have a good regimen of spiritual hygiene in the same way that we do personal hygiene. Because, as I said, the transfer of energy is not malicious, but we live in a world where 3 in 5 people, I believe, struggle with anxiety or depressive conditions. And therefore, when the world is as unhealthy as what it is at the moment, it's far more important than ever to ensure that we maintain our aura, that we put protection on our auras if we know how to do it. And of course, I'm going to be giving you the skills on here on how to protect your aura. This is coming up in one of the next videos. One of the other videos that's going to be loaded this week actually is the one on spiritual hygiene. And I would recommend that everybody do it, whether they believe or not, whether you're a skeptic or not. Start including spiritual hygiene into your daily regimen, because at least that way you're managing your own health and well-being, and hopefully the way you manage yours will flow over to the people around you. What else can I let you know here? I think that's probably it for today as far as an introduction to aura goes. I do recommend you watch that other video on spiritual hygiene though. That is the basic and introductory aspects of it. There's a lot of strategy and technique because one size doesn't fit all, and this is what I aim to do with this channel, is provide many different techniques that I've learned from people over the years, what's worked for them, what's worked for me, and that way people can find the one that works for them. So before we finish off for today, just a reminder that I don't consider that the way I do things is the only way to do things, or that I am the expert or the best at anything. You are the best person to make decisions for your life and what works for you. And I come back to that. That's also with the spiritual stuff. Everything that I put into my videos, these are my understandings for today at the time of recording the video. None of my beliefs or values are fixed because we're all in a perpetual state of growth and development, and that includes me. What I believe to be true and correct today may change tomorrow with new information. If you've got different ways of doing things, please do let us know in the comments. And equally, what I would be really interested to know is if your mind was closed to the concepts of auras before watching this video, are you still so fixed in your beliefs now, or have you experienced a shift? Are you a little bit more open-minded? If you're too self-conscious to comment, that's okay, I don't mind, I'd just be interested. And then for other people, if there's any particular content that you would like me to make a video on, please do write it in the comments and I will endeavour to meet your needs and requests. I'll see what I can do, because my aim is to make content that is relevant to you and valuable for you. So in the meantime though, for today, I must love you, leave you. Thank you for being part of the journey. Thank you for your patience. Take care, my friends. Be blessed. I'm over and out for today. Best wishes to you.